Hey friends, this is Mark Suroviec, host of the Workplace Solutions podcast, inviting you to discover the joy of work. All right, we're back. Jonathan, part 2. I'm here with Jonathan Weaver, the Game Weaver.
That's what they call me. Actually, they don't really call me that. That's just
I'm going to call you that from now on. I was going to call you Game Lord, but Game Weaver is even better.
Yeah. I probably will respond to it because most people call me Weaver, and about the other 30% of people call me Jonathan. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you have Weaver even in the Game Weaver, I'm sure I'll turn around.
Most people call me Mark and just kind of mumble it at the end.
And there's so
it's I'll tell you what, speaking of, because we do focus a lot on memory, I remember my first summer of camp, and I know I'm telling a story before an icebreaker, and that's breaking format. I'm sorry. But I remember a friend of mine made hand motions for pronouncing my name because it was just difficult for everyone to remember. So it was sir, like you're saluting, and I'm doing the hand motions now. You can't see me.
Yeah.
But row, like you're rowing a boat.
Okay.
And Vic, like Michael Vick, the football
the passer.
player, the dog fighter, whichever version of Michael Vick you remember.
Accurate.
So Sir Row Vic. I was like, oh, that's fantastic.
Man, that's so helpful.
And I do that, and people look at me weird, but then I walk away, and they're going, like they're making the motions.
and then they just don't even speak it anymore. They just do the hand motions, and they mean you, right? Yeah. Across the street, you see them saluting you and rowing a boat. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's so funny.
So we're here talking a little bit about transferable skills and Jonathan's hobby of being a game designer. Let's do a quick icebreaker, and then we'll go into the rest of part 2 of this episode.
Sounds great.
So, Jonathan, tell us a time in which your kids did something that mortified you in public.
Oh, okay.
That you're like, I want to die.
Yeah. I will say this. I am not an easily embarrassed person.
Okay.
Probably because I had enough of those in my childhood to realize you don't die afterwards. But when I think about the things that get kind of like oh my gosh, my oldest son repeats most of what he says, and he loves history, and history is not... there's just certain things in history that are not the best
to say out loud.
So there was a space where I was talking with, I mean, it probably was students. I'm trying to remember who it was now. Mm-hmm. And I remember like we were talking about something, and we said something like, that's really bad, or like, that's just really sad, or something along those lines. And my son, who loves history and loves knowledge and wants to be a part of this conversation because adults are cool, he says, "Oh man, yeah, like Hitler."
Oh no!
And I was like, "No, not like Hitler." And the student, I think, and almost positive it was a student if I remember right. It was just kind of like what is your kid doing? Like that moment where I'm like, I don't give my kid books on Hitler. I don't know why. I mean. Yeah. So.
And that's the end of our episode.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So it was just a really funny space where I'm like, hey, he just really likes to learn about history, and we like to answer his questions. And so sometimes he asks questions about things that are not necessarily 6-year-old appropriate, but we like give him facts and ideas, and he doesn't mind talking about them whenever. And that's where we realized like, you just don't really talk about that a ton, but
okay.
It's all right. My son has learned a ton in that area, as well as he's still, if you're really tall, will be like, are you as tall as Abe Lincoln? So he will address you in a historical manner sometimes, which he probably gets from me because I love history too. So.
Love it.
Yep.
Oh, that famous vampire hunter.
Yeah, that's
Abe
right.
Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln, the vampire hunter. Such a tall man. Gosh.
Oh, we're having fun. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the one that is at the top of my mind right now is my daughter Peggy, when she was still in diapers, when we just had one. Let's just say my wife is the much better parent. So we'll be
that's true for me as well, everyone.
Yeah. So she is the hero of our family. And so I had taken her to a restaurant. She pooped her diaper, grabbed her diaper bag, went into the restaurant. And this is pretty early on, so I was still just, it was probably one of the first times I had to change a diaper in public.
Like
and
breathing exercises.
Yeah. And she's pooped all the way up her clothes and just it's a mess. Like she can't put them back on. And I open up the diaper bag. There are no diapers, no clothes, no wipes. So all I have,
3 strikes you're out.
yeah, all I have is like the paper towels in the restroom. And so I'm just kind of wiping, and I know that's gross and I'm sorry, but she's screaming at the top of her lungs and I can't get her to stop. I don't have any clothing for her and I'm so overwhelmed. So I just grab her. I just pick her up in my arm and kind of run out of the restaurant. So I have this naked, screaming, poop-covered child like running through the restaurant, and folks are just looking at me like, I didn't steal the kid, but
you did. Like you're waiting for the Amber Alert to show up.
Yeah.
Like, it's my kid.
Man, no.
It's my kid.
But it was, I didn't go back to that restaurant for months.
You're like, if there's a regular, I don't want to see their face. Yeah.
And to this day, like I won't go there unless my wife's there too.
Man, that moment. I will say that's a dad thing. The resources check, not a thing for me. I'm like, I grab the bag and I assume it just somehow magically refills with stuff. But my wife always checks it, and then I'm always like, how are you guys always so late? Well, maybe she's checking the diaper bag, and that's what's probably. And she doesn't end up in those scenarios, you know. Oh, man,
I think this is time number 7 that we've determined we share a brain.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. This is brain 1 coming to you in 2 forms.
Let's jump into some more fun stuff. So in the last episode, we defined transferable skills as the transferable skills are the knowledge, skills, experience, and or behavior learned in one context and then applied to a different role or environment. And we've been chatting about how transferable skills has played out with some of Jonathan's hobbies. You've identified yourself as a creative, a person who makes things and ideates. What advice would you give other creatives?
Man, I feel like I'm just now able to answer this from like I've been doing it long enough to go the ups, the downs, and like realize kind of like, you know, that space where you enter a context and you're not really sure what the expectation should be, and you go after the wrong things and you make all the wrong mistakes, or although I guess there's no such thing as wrong mistakes, all mistakes are wrong. And I feel like I'm on this end where I'm trying to redefine what it looks like to be a game designer. And one of the things that I got to do, and I would say I'd encourage this to other creatives, is dabble in lots of different forms inside of the hobby of that whatever creative place you're in, without putting necessarily, unless this is helpful for motivation, a success metric on it. I'll tell you a mistake. I think that's part of this podcast, right? I went into game design. I felt like I had a really good game. I felt like my first game was called Genghis Rising Khan. There's the history bit again. And I play tested it like crazy. And then I made copies that were printable on demand in America for other people to get to. I would say, hey, can you play test this game? And I would send them a copy. They'd usually pay me a few bucks for it. And I thought I was in a good place. And then I was like, I'm going to go and kickstart this or something. But I went down the road of always having a success metric ahead of me of I'm going to kickstart this, or I'm going to pitch this to a publisher, or one of my main ones, this was a killer. I said, I'm going to be one of those sub 30-year-old game designers that gets signed. Well, I was 28, so I did not have a ton of time before I am going to cross into the threshold of being over 30. And the reason I said that is I saw that the percentage of game designers that were signed under 30 wasn't very high. It wasn't the bulk of game designers that are signed are up above 30, even above 35, a lot of them. So I was like, oh, here we go. And I hit it really hard, and I sprinted, as the phrase of like design. And so I made a ton of games, and then I chose games out of those games that I thought were the best and kept pushing them, pitching them. And when I had done all that work, and I still enjoyed the process, it wasn't like I hated everything about it. That would have made me quit. But I love a lot of it. But then when the pitching goes south, and the pitching goes south, and the pitching goes south, and your game doesn't get picked up, I had that moment, this is true for us creatives, of attaching my identity somewhat to the thing that I have made. And now, looking back, I'm like, I could have enjoyed the whole process a lot more if I had realized this is a cool thing, and maybe someone will pick it up, and I do have to do something for them to see it, but not make that goal that kind of almost like you either make or break the moment. And I did. And it made...
You're only validated if XYZ happened externally.
And I got a great rebuke from a person who doesn't even know they rebuked me at a game design conference where we were just playtesting, but there was panels. And I asked a guy, I said, what does it look like for those who are outside of the industry to try to get inside the industry as designers? What should we be doing better? What should we be doing more of? And he said, wow, that actually makes me really sad that you would say that. You are inside the industry because you're here. And he validated my existence inside of board game design and board games as an industry just because I had made a game and I was playtesting it and I was bumping elbows with other people who had done so, and not I have my name on a box, which is what I was going for. Oh man, I was busting my tail for a name on my box. And so it's just really cool. And I would advise other creatives, just check your success metric. And it's not bad to have what I had as a goal. But when that goal became an overtaking thing, I think I overvalued that validation when I could have enjoyed more of the process and journey, even though I'm getting no's. It's not like anyone ever wants to get a no when they're looking to pitch something. But then it wouldn't have been nearly as just crushing at times. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We keep flip-flopping between Jonathan's experience as a game designer and Jonathan's experience with students as doing college ministry, but there's a lot of overlap there.
It's in line with the topic.
Yeah, and it's in line with the topic, transferable. I didn't prep you with this question before, but I think you'll be more than capable of answering it. Your college ministry has had some amazing catalytic events. Is there any you would like to highlight and say how they've affected the students? And I know that some of them have some secrecy around them. We don't want to spoil the surprise for future students. That's right. But I guess what's a catalytic event that your ministry has done and that you've seen the results from?
Man, which one has not had the results visible? I love it. Yeah,
well, then you just pick.
I just get to pick. Over the last few years, I'm in my 5th year at this ministry. I've gotten to be very intimately involved in 2 different events that I'm kind of like overseeing the point person of. And one of those is actually about crafting your life purpose statement. And we have many events that happen before this. It's not like the first thing you do when you show up at college, right? That would be a bad idea.
Welcome to Barry. What is your life purpose? I'm like, can you show me where my dorm is?
That's right. I can't park in this parking spot, but I'm supposed to have a life purpose? No, it is in the middle of your sophomore year.
Okay.
And there's lots of events that are events and processes, more so than even the processes that matter too, that lead up to this point. But this trip in particular has a profound impact on students' lives because it takes a look at how you are uniquely crafted. And this is where I believe that the Lord has uniquely crafted every individual. We and Mark have been joking we are the same person. We actually aren't. We just have a lot of similarities. And there's an element of every student might know that as knowledge versus experience. And we ask them, in light of this life purpose process, to dive backwards into the life that they've already lived, looking for what we call destiny markers, or basically milestones in their journey from even really little, all the way to this college stage. And look for what themes are there, what relationships mattered, what elements did you find yourself in over and over again, what milestones did you hit? Were they physical milestones? Were they mental and academic milestones? Were they sports milestones? And basically these destiny markers informing how God has already been working in you. A lot of the direction I see these days is to look forward on like what I know right now presently and how do I apply it tomorrow. And when you look backwards, you start to create a string of God's providence in your life. And then we ask them, and this was one of the things that we dove into earlier in their year of sophomore year, how has God shown himself to be uniquely crafting you now? We use Strengths Finder in light of that to give language around your unique crafting. And so now it's like, then what about now, right? And then we ask, what do you think God might be calling you to see change in the world because of how he has crafted you? And that's the life purpose statement. It's not a definitive, we don't make them write it in stone because nothing is in stone. And I've watched students go from, I thought I was going to be a doctor and I'm on pre-med track and I have all of the things and everything about that career is my world and I'm going to work my life in that right way, to realizing as they looked backwards and as they looked presently and as they looked forward into the world and the pain that the world's experiencing, I actually don't need to do that. I'm incredibly good with numbers and I really want kids to love numbers and I want to be a math teacher, right? I think there's this element of breaking down some of the societal or even like family structure constraints that we might experience in our lives by letting the Lord speak at this catalytic event.
Okay. If you see me thinking, I think a lot of our audience are not followers of Jesus. So I'm just processing through how that's going to land. And not that I would want you to water down what you're saying, but would you say that the same way if this was a mixed audience or a primarily non-faith based audience?
Yeah, I think I would say a slight difference in the sense that there's no doubt that a DNA confirms that everyone's uniquely made, and the fact that you having a specific place in the work world, career world, the world at large in its societal and cultural makeup is probably going to feel true for most people. They're not going to say, I'm just a cog. I could go anywhere. It's like maybe you're really versatile, but maybe you're not so versatile that you could go anywhere and do anything and be fulfilled in it, which is another cool part of believing in the idea that there's a life purpose space that I truly believe finds its fulfillment in the Lord. But I think that the people that do not know the Lord also have a space in this world and that they are uniquely crafted by, in my opinion, God. But DNA proves the same thing. And so just really like seeing an element of that is pretty cool when you think about that.
Yeah, I was just pondering here, not wanting folks who didn't have a faith background to tune out what you're saying. Correct. Because of the religious nature of the comments. It's really good stuff. So I don't want that to be a barrier to folks.
Sure, absolutely. So, and I just used the phrase strengths finder. Yeah. We mentioned Enneagram in the previous episode. Those are not things made by Christian people necessarily.
Yeah. So I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but I was going, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I did ask about college ministry, so that's fair.
That's right. That's right. If you guys want to listen to me on other podcasts, I share the same thing on game design podcasts out there as well. So.
This is just me figuring out what it looks like engaging the world with my brand and business without being apologetic, but also being sensitive to most of the people listening probably won't be Christians.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's a tricky space.
Yep. So thank you for just respecting my processing through that.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I put down some bonus questions here that if we had time for, and we do.
What? Maybe because we're on episode 2.
Yeah, because we're on episode 2.
That's awesome.
All right. Describe a time in which you worked on a team or project and it just really clicked. So what was true about that group of people? How did they interact? Tell us that story.
Ooh, man. Let me think about this for a second. There's 2 different scenarios I'm thinking of. Mm-hmm. One is in the hobby space and one is in my day job as a college administrator.
Yeah, let's do them both.
So I maybe in the light of transferable skills, I'll say both of them. One is a small team and it's in the game design space. I have been fortunate enough in 2 different games that are co-designs to, in one of them, find a co-designer, his name's Keiffer, who just loved the details of bouncing ideas with me and his framework for games was totally different than me. His personality is very different than mine. Mm-hmm. And yet that is exactly why I felt like we clicked, because when he would ask a question or make a statement, it would cause me significant pause, like a speed bump. Oh, slow down. What? Oh, I'm never what are you talking to? And that space is so good. It's so good because I didn't miss it. I didn't drive right past it. And I loved that so much that before long, because he was helping me craft this game that I'd already made the beginning portion of, I was like, dude, you're a co-designer because just as much of you is on the table when we put this thing on the table as there is of me. And so I'd love to add you to the list as the co-designer because you've put enough into this that there's no way I could have made this game without you.
And knowing Cal, it's fun to watch the two of you together because you guys complement each other well.
It's so good to have that pause moment, someone who slows you down. So that's the game design front. I had another co-designer, same thing, Kyle Schubert. I'll check his name out there. We've designed a game this year, and man, we are so different. Even our game designers, totally different. But we're crafting a game together. It's pretty awesome. The one in the college ministry space, this is another space where I have felt the most able to be me. Who I am. I'm a problem solver. I'm an ideator. I have high strategy is very easy to me. When it comes to people, like empathy, harmony, things like that relate to when you craft systems in light of people. I've had an amazing team at my college ministry that was able to say, wait, that does work, but it won't work with certain people. Here's the people I'm thinking about.
Do you know what harmony is on my strengths finder?
It's anything close to mine. It's probably like 34. Is it really? That's amazing.
Harmony and includer are 33 and 34.
That's amazing. I have 34 as harmony as well. Me and Mark are the same person. Everyone here, you heard it here.
This is hilarious. I honestly didn't know we were.
Discipline is number 33 for me. So there you go. At least we're different somehow.
There you go. All right. What about you mentioned with your college ministry?
Yeah. So college ministry, there are two people that are in my college ministry that are both really good, and they're so good subjective feedback givers.
If they would be okay with it, you are allowed to say them by name.
Absolutely.
We believe in when we're thanking people, we can absolutely thank them by name.
Well, I am thanking Aubrey, Georgian, and Katie Hackler big time. I work on a leadership team with them, and the parameters of me getting to be me and them getting to be them are beautiful. Another guy that's on that team is Caleb Warren, and he's gotten on our team more recently, and I've gotten to watch him become him. And each of us in this 4-person team, which I do believe is like the perfect team. Anyway, not the people, but 4. So my favorite number is 4. But the 4 people on this team, when we get to crafting something, making something, whatever, we have so many differing voices while still having the same purpose. And I don't feel ashamed to be like, this is how I think about it. And I'm really honest. And sometimes I'm honest to the point where I'm a little embarrassed at how honest I am. But they accept that, and as long as I'm not crossing any lines, because they know who I am, and then I'm trying to give my real thoughts forward. And then same thing for them. They will say, nah, that's not how I feel about that. And here's why. And we'll have that kind of conversation and come to decisions that I truly feel like are just wise. They're just wise decisions, not because I'm involved, because all of us are involved, and we're being who we are made to be. And that's just such a beautiful place for a team, and I've gotten to enjoy that a ton.
That's awesome. We'll make this the final one. What is a question that you haven't been asked that you are burning to answer or ask me?
Ooh, that's great. They've heard me talk enough. Maybe I'll ask one to you.
Okay.
So I know that you can craft games and experiences as well in light of your work experience. What is a transferable skill, not from game design or crafting experiences, but is from outside of that makes doing that, crafting an experience at the table, easier or better?
Oh, that's a good one. Training, evaluation, training that I received, which is a mouthful. So I have my Kirkpatrick bronze certification. So Kirkpatrick partners do certification programs in how do you evaluate the effectiveness of training and the usefulness of training.
That's cool.
And that program was fantastic. I recommend it to anyone who is in the training and development world, because it really got me to think about how to evaluate the training. And when you think about how you evaluate something, it actually changes how you design it.
Yeah.
And I remember in that program, we saw some research from Brinkerhoff, I believe his name is, and telling training story, and it was this idea of how much effort you put in the training itself, and how much you put in the prep and the follow through, and just the numbers are insane in terms of the difference if you put 50% of your effort on what happens after the training, 25% on what you do to prep the people before the training, and only spend 25% of your time designing the actual training, which sounds nuts because you're just like that's the most concrete thing. Like, hey, if my PowerPoint is 10-point font, 900 words, like you just said, it's going to be terrible. But in the research, that's actually not true. The training event is important, but what matters is folks need to know why they're coming, and they need to have other things that are happening outside of that training environment. So it really caused me to think of this whole model of experiential learning as single events with nothing in between, before or after, as just a broken system. Yeah. And so that's why, like, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this whole catalytic event idea of, you've got the event and that's important and you need to nail that, but what happens before and what happens after are very important, especially what happens after. And those are the things that are often neglected. So I'd say that Kirkpatrick training really taught me to think with the end in mind and work backwards and be realistic with what kind of goals and outcomes we can actually achieve within the boundaries of the time that we have to work with.
Man, I love that. That feels so accurate. Like the element of reverse engineering the training versus, we want this to happen and this is what we want it to seem like or do instead. That's really cool. I love that. Man.
Final thoughts.
I want to challenge everybody out there. I told you guys I was a challenger, so here we go. I challenge anyone who listens to this to be bold, to take the step to create a game. And when I say that, I mean craft an experience that you think would be fun. It could be for your brother, your sister, your parents, your family, your friends. Take some games that already exist, modify them for fun. If something's kind of gotten rote, like you play Uno a lot, but you've played Uno a billion times, what could you do to Uno? I want to encourage people that you talked about me being a creative. I don't believe that only some people are creatives. I truly believe, like I said, if you've been a child, welcome.
Most of us have.
Most of us.
At some point in our lives.
I'm not talking to you aliens out there.
I still am.
That's right. Absolutely. Some of us are still children, but truly give it a shot, because I think the learning, once again, transferable skill, of diving into why is this fun? Or why is this memorable? Or why does this bring us together? Is a really worthy space of your thoughts. Because if you think those questions and you think, what do I do to make that happen? You'll be better equipped to be facilitating that kind of experience in the future. Which, who doesn't want more memorable experiences and more fun and more engagement? Like, who doesn't want that? So I just want to challenge you guys. Do a game design jam. Those are online. You can go and just be like, I've got 24 hours. I got to make a game. Then just, barrel through it and say, well, that was it.
Dust off something from your bookshelf.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go get Twister and make it different. I don't know. Everybody has to stay on their hands all the time. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, just elements of that were, I think when you were talking about it earlier, the CEO space, the space of thinking through, why is this memorable, teaches you about people and teaches you about you. And teaches you about expectations of people. And all that space is worth it, even if you're not in a training, equipping, or facilitating type of job, because you're going to be doing something like that in a social setting outside of your job at some point, more than likely. And so just knowing how people engage fun and memory and enjoyment and social enjoyment is really a cool space to think through.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jonathan. I think that was a fantastic episode. Let's hit it. Life is way too short for work to suck. So if you want help to build your team, train your team, or manage your team, we're here. Come see us at workplaysolutions.com. 'em. Thanks for listening to the podcast. right. So what we I'll cut that out.